I'd like you to imagine an arts organisation created by emerging artists for emerging artists that fosters equality, community and skill sharing rather than creating hierarchy or competitiveness, that leaves the gallery behind and turns to the rich spaces of daily life for artistic presentation. An arts organisation that's funded by its community and gives artists just starting out the same level of support, resources and funding that established artists receive. This arts organisation doesn't exist yet. It's called Echo 6 and it's something that I want to make happen in 2018. We're all very aware of the challenging conditions at the moment in the arts in Sydney. There's decreasing numbers of grants, decreasing opportunities, closing artist-run spaces and dramatically increasing rent prices, and not to mention the smashed avo on toast, we can't buy any property. All these elements are huge barriers for everyone practicing the arts, and this constant sense of competing with each other and being paired up against each other to fight for the limited spaces and resources that there are. And the people that win these fights most of the time are more established artists that have hot CVs, stronger application writing skills, and resolved and more documented practices. And radical, experimental, emerging artists are largely getting locked out of these conversations. So I've begun to think a lot about spaces that art can inhabit and the solution to this. And I think moving beyond the confinements of the physical white cube and into mobile, non-art spaces is the answer. Every month for the past year and a half, myself and Nerida Ross have been throwing unofficial after parties for art openings in the Sydney area of Frida's, which is a bar in Chippendale. And each time we've invited an experimental performance artist to present their work in a club bar setting. Essentially they're curating a party with us. And we've done all sorts of ridiculous things. We've printed Carolyn Garcia and Claudia Nicholson's face on a cake and then served it on the dance floor. We've launched an Immortality Slime product launch with Angela Go, and we put a pop-up Redfern convenience store inside the bar for Rosie Deacon, amongst other things. And there's been such a surprising sense of community and inhibition and experimentation that have come out of these events that's devoid of any feelings of competition. I think that's largely due to removing the behavioural expectations that come with traditional art spaces and using spaces that have a context in daily life. The idea behind Echo 6 is to create a spaceless mobile arts organisation. The name came from the idea that a space's past echoes through to its present and resonates through the artworks that come to inhabit it. In turn, the artwork joins the echo and resonates into the future of the space. This organisation will aim to commission, develop and present experimental projects by radical boundary-pushing artists in these non-art spaces. One of the artists in conversation about developing a project for Echo 6 next year is Post Mertel. He was like 2 slides ago. I'm running behind. The last time I saw him perform, he did an electronic music set running on a treadmill with 2 men standing next to him with stockings on their head. And then they proceeded to angle grind the treadmill and sparks were flying into the audience. It was an OH&S nightmare, but incredible. And everything that they've done thus far has been funded by themselves. So I'm so excited to see what they can produce when they have funding and resources and space behind them. And another project locked in is Cash, which is a mini film festival that will be screening an eclectic collection of video works by a range of practicing queer performance artists in Sydney and abroad. The first iteration of this was presented at Down Under during my curatorial program there with Alice Joel, and I'm really excited to bring it to a space of importance to the queer community that has a bigger capacity and helping provide them with funding and resources and space. More broadly, Echo 6 will aim to engage one project every 3 months or so and approach artists that have multidisciplinary experimental practices with the offer of developing and commissioning and presenting their work. Many of the artists that I plan on approaching or in discussion with at the moment are people that are in these slides. In the emerging stage in your career, a lot of the time you're very limited by access to resources and finance and space, which can greatly hinder or make completely impossible making an ambitious project. So foundational to this organisation is kind of like a board network that it consists of people from all faculties of the arts, from emerging art, from like arts law to film to curation to writing, and they'll be the foundation of this organisation, supporting these artists through skill sharing. So it has a bit of a professional development angle and is centred around the I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine mentality. For example, if the artist needed legal help, they'd go to the legal member of the board to chat through contracts or copyright, or if they needed help documenting their exhibition, they would go to the film or photography member of the board. And then there's the age-old question of how on earth are you going to fund it? How will it survive? Beyond thinking about traditional routes of applying for grants and private and public sponsorship, private giving, public donations, and in-kind sponsorship, I'd like to rethink how we fund our projects and mobilise the community that Eco6 is trying to foster to contribute financially or with favours to the survival of this organisation. Hopefully it'll be doing things like party fundraisers where the door money goes to funding a project, almost like a grant, communal dinners and community events that encourage people to get around an idea and then be the person that makes that happen. Eco6 will be an organisation that fosters community building values, explores new territories that art can inhabit and thrive, rethinks funding, and most of all, deeply, deeply supports emerging experimental artists. And that's the end.